A very warm welcome to all those classical musicians out there who want to grow and expand a creative lifestyle both on and off stage. My name is Karin Bonelli. I'm flutist at the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra, a passionate explorer and seeker in musical and personal growth, and founder of Penthesilea Academy, the most innovative masterclass designed for audition preparation. This podcast is for you if you're searching for new ideas to elevate the productivity of your musical practice and your level of focus and expression on stage. But that's not all. In each episode, you will find bits and pieces to integrate into your everyday life, as well as new perspectives and insights by our experienced and passionate team and guests. Music is not a job. It is a way of living. My name is Karin Bonelli, and this is Penthesilea on Air. Welcome again to Penthesilea on Air podcast. Our episode today revolves around what many music students consider the ultimate dream, winning an orchestral audition. But what really happens after that big moment? What does it mean to transition from success to security, and how do we navigate the high stakes period that follows, the trial period? To explore this crucial and often under-discussed phase of an orchestral career, I'm joined by a guest who not only knows this world inside and out, but has helped shape it for over 3 decades. My dear colleague, co-founder, and friend, Gudrun Hinze. Gudrun, originally from Saarland, studied flute and piccolo in Düsseldorf and Essen. After early engagements with the WDR Symphony Orchestra Köln and the MDR Symphony Orchestra Leipzig, she won the audition for solo piccolo at the Gewandhaus Orchestra Leipzig in 1993, a position she's held with distinction ever since. She also performed for nearly 2 decades at the Bayreuth Festival Orchestra. Her solo recordings with Berlin Classic and Talenton Records highlight her deep dedication to the piccolo as a solo voice. Beyond the stage, Gudrun is a passionate educator and mentor. As a key figure in the Penthesilea Academy, she offers masterclasses, coaching, and career guidance to young musicians, with a focus not just on playing beautifully, but on building sustainable, empowered artistic lives. Today, we'll talk about her own experience, navigating trial periods, supporting students through theirs, and what it really takes to turn a dream job into a lasting career. If you're interested into working with Gudrun, join our school community. We're waiting for you there. Welcome, Gudrun, and thank you for being with us.
Hello, Karin. I'm so happy to have this interview today, and I hope that we will have a wonderful time together.
Oh, I'm sure, like always. So let's dive right into the topic of today. When you were a flute student, what were your expectations of this profession? Did you have like a specific idea what your life would look like after winning the audition? And to what extent has this dream become a reality for you?
I think when I was a young flute player and I had my first weeks in youth orchestras, I really wanted to have that in my life, that I am in the heart, sitting in the heart of the orchestra, in the middle, being a part of it, being one of the 1,000 puzzle items that make the whole picture, and diving into music. That was my general idea of that profession. But I need to say that I didn't have a lot of insight or experiences what this profession would be, because my parents were doctors and most of my relatives also were teachers or doctors, and I didn't have any examples how life would be in an orchestra. So my ideas came all from youth orchestras.
where usually the whole surrounding is completely different. And then you got
Yeah.
into your first orchestral job. Was it like a shock then, the things that were going on, or were you expecting things to be like that? How was it for you?
You're right. It was a shock.
Okay.
And I must admit that I was not prepared enough for reality. And I didn't listen enough to my teacher, who warned me that there would be a big difference between youth orchestra and professional orchestra. And well, of course, that was kind of 35 years or more ago. And I think nowadays joining a professional orchestra is a different kind of thing than 35 years ago, when we were very few women and we had the old generation of men sitting in the orchestra who were soldiers or prisoners in Second World War. And that was
Wow.
a totally different history. And so I think nowadays it's not so hard, and generations are not so far away from each other as they were then. And also what was a very special situation for me, I already had 2 children when I joined my first job in orchestra, and my second child was only 8 months old when I had my first rehearsals in orchestra. And also that was a big pressure for me. It was totally different to leave home with 2 crying children and go to a rehearsal. It was really not relaxed, and I couldn't focus as much as I wanted to the joy of that profession. So maybe that was too special.
Wow, but then bravo for passing the probational period with 2 small children. My gosh, what a challenge. Were you the first female in the wind section, or how was the percentage? Do you know that?
I was the first female in the woodwind section, and there was 1 female horn player then. But yeah, there were very few women, even in the Western Orchestra. And then that was in Cologne where I started, and then I changed to Leipzig, and also there, in the Gewandhaus Orchestra of 1993, there were only 16 women. I was number 16. And the whole amount of players was 185. So it was not even 10% of women then. That has changed a lot. And that was, of course, a big change in the atmosphere and in the energy. Also for the men, it's much more normal now, and they know how to behave with a woman. And then it was also difficult for them to have a new young woman close to them, and they didn't even know, should I open the door for her now, or can she do that alone? That kind of questions arose.
Well, that is actually cute. So this is not such a bad experience. Okay. What insight from your probationary period surprised you maybe the most? So something you never would have expected before entering an orchestra?
Actually, let's talk about my first probational period, because actually I had a failure there. I didn't have enough votes. It was a kind of 3 votes missing to pass. And the biggest surprise was that generations can think and feel so differently. And there's so much of concurrence. Competition feelings within the orchestra. There's a lot of envy, jealousness, fear for being not respected now any longer, because some very lively and open young woman is now joining the orchestra, and that could lead all the attention to her and not to the old principal players, for example. Yeah, so it was a lot of fear and competitive energy there, and I did not expect that. And what I also did not expect, that there could also be fight and more than controversial. It was really fight and no will to solve that. No whatsoever intention to solve conflicts. Again, that was 35 years ago, and I think also there we have a very good development in social life in common. Now we are used to talk together, to have a lot of assemblies, not only from the whole orchestra, but also from the sections, and to have more communication, to have training in communication, or even to have mediation. Mediation.
Yeah, mediators. Yeah.
And so that is a big step forward.
Okay.
But still, conflicts are still there because we are all humans, and I actually didn't have the tools and the skills how to settle these kind of conflicts with with people who are 30 years older than me. That I thought that was really difficult.
Yeah, some unexpected things that arise after youth orchestra, usually. And looking back at this period, what advice would you give to your past self at that time?
To my past self,
like when you look on that period where you didn't get your probational period, what would you tell yourself?
Two things. One, I should have learned to care for myself much better and not to wait to be loved by everybody. That would be my number one really advice, because there are so many players, and for sure you will not be loved by everybody. And if you are kind of addicted to that and need that, or need the company and the friendship that you were used to in youth orchestras, now that we are on a professional level, we are more colleagues than friends. If you find friends, it's fine, but not everyone will be your friend, and that's fine too. But for me, then, as a young person, that didn't feel fine, and I was quite in a despair that there were actually people who didn't like me or even hate me.
Oh, wow.
So I really advise young people to work on their inner child energy before they go into such a big and broad variety of a group like an orchestra is. To learn about social systems, to learn about what the generation before you experienced in the last, let's say, 2 or 2.5 decades. So you learn about social history, about what parenting means, about what you can do to protect yourself, your inside yourself. With other words, to be a real grown-up person when you join an orchestra. If you feel like no, I'm the youngest, and no, I'm everybody's darling, then this will not work out.
Yeah, it's a kind of a dangerous position young female musicians often are put in, I feel, to really stand one's ground and find this balance between professionalism and being nice to people. Yeah. Oh my gosh, interesting topic. We could talk for this.
It's perfectly fine to be nice with people, but you have to make clear your own borders for yourself and also for others, so that already in your radiance it's perfectly clear how far anybody could go to talk to you or to touch you or whatever this person wants to do, including conductors. So if you yourself feel your borders and your balance between openness and being kind of self-assured within your own borders, without being rejective or aggressive or something. Just make it clear. And then it's enough if you know that and feel that and have a radiance of that. You don't even have to use words. And this kind of preparation, I think it's very important for the whole life.
Yeah. And it sounds like there were so many new things and new challenging coming at you during this time. What gave you the stability to go through this period? Because you even have 2 small children, so you had to be the stable person for someone and still experiencing all of those those different new challenges. How did you find your stability in this period?
Yeah, that's difficult to say so long ago. And I just remember that I didn't feel very stable in these days, but I felt what I could feel very well was life's reality. Like, I'm here to nurse my children. I have to give them a house to live and food to eat. So I have to do my job. That was kind of responsibility for others that made me do the next steps and just go on, work on, and believe in life, that there would be a second chance and some other place to work. And maybe it was lucky for me that I had that outside reflection of my inner need, because everyone has to care for their own life. And when you are a grown-up person, you have to just nourish yourself, take care that you have a house to live in, and whatever these normal basic things that you need to do in life. So it's important for everyone. But for me, it was so obvious because there were persons outside of me that I had to care for, like a mirror, reflecting the basic needs of life that everyone has. So it was a little bit stronger for me, stronger, compelling energy that drove me to go forward.
Wow. Yeah, still my respect for all of that at once. And you already touched on it a little bit. I'm really interested in hierarchical systems in orchestra actually. Is it possible to get a sense of a musician's personality already during an audition? And in your experience, does this initial impression usually match the person you get to know during their probationary period before they go into this hierarchical system? Do you feel like how will they fit into the whole picture?
Well, that's very complex. I want to start with a hierarchy in orchestra.
Yeah.
We live now in a period of time where hierarchies seem to crumble down or are not so seen or as something so necessary or so nice. I feel that the younger generations want to live more in in this on the same level as their chiefs or their leaders. And now I want to say some reflections on the positive sides of hierarchy. We have hierarchy in orchestra, like we have leaders of the section and tutti positions. Let's call it like this. Actually, we're doing quite the same work, but having a leader gives you orientation. It gives you confidence. In the best case, the leader can carry you along with enthusiasm, with fascination, with their expertise. So it's also maybe the hierarchy is also a principle of role models. And I think a role model, this is not so wrong. This is what we need in life to have some orientation how we want to develop or how we don't want to develop. And if you have a leader in whatever situation, it reflects your own behavior to something which is higher than you. And there's always something or someone who is higher than you, especially in experience. So when you enter the orchestra at young age, you are mostly at the lowest level of experience. And that is not a fault or something bad. It's life. It's because we are living on Earth. We are living in a stream of time, and this stream of time, you can't meddle with that, as Dumbledore said very wisely. You can't meddle with that. So this kind of hierarchy you have always in a big group, which is heterogen.
Yeah.
We
understand.
Yes. So you have different ages and generations in this group.
Yes.
And that is actually the structure of life. It's the structure of a family. It's the structure of how life develops, because you have always the first generation, the parents, the great grandparents, the great grandparents, and all the ancestors. And I think one reason because we are not so willing to accept that is that we are not used to it from very young age. From kindergarten, from school, throughout our studies, we are stuck with the same group of people, and they are all at our age. And that makes a period of 15 years at least, sometimes more, maybe 20 years of your young age. Almost everything of your age. You spend the most of your living time in a group where everyone has the same age. So you do not learn how to get a benefit of the experience of others and how to care for those who are younger than you. And that is a big, big mistake in our educational system. And it makes it so difficult for young persons to accept these natural hierarchies who are so useful and give so much shelter and safety to you when you join a group where you have different levels of experiences. Also experience with music, of course, because our older colleagues, they know everything. They have played everything. They don't even have to practice a new composed piece because they feel how it will go on. And I admired that a lot when I entered as a young person, that my colleagues beside me, they knew in advance in a premiere piece that was never played before how it would go on, where the next entrance would be. They knew. And now I know it's possible. Yes, it's same with me now. Even when we have something that is never played before, I can feel when I have to go on and how all this works. And
like
this is something so very nice. Yeah. And I invite every young person listening now to observe that now you have a new field of experiences. Finally, you have this field of the whole horizon of life. Young persons, middle-aged, parents, great-grandparents, really. We have colleagues here who have great-grandchildren already sitting beside me. So that's really rich. It's life at its richest point, and it includes hierarchy because on Earth we are living in a stream of time. And that's something where we always are the smaller ones. Time is bigger. So it's not difficult to agree to that.
Yeah. It's like very long back in our evolution when we all lived together in this big family compounds where generations were teaching each other. It's like, like coming a bit from back then, right? That got lost a bit. And
it's got lost a lot, actually. And we all think that someone who is higher than us, we have to envy him or her, or we feel uncomfortable that this person could give orders to us. But it's for our best. It's for us to learn. And if the orders are bad or not serious, or then again, you can learn from that.
Yeah.
And you don't have to repeat that when you order. You just have to benefit from it.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
yeah. So your second question about, can I see that when a person enters the room or the stage, even if it's only for 3 or 5 minutes of a first round of an audition? Yes, I see it. I feel it. Maybe it would be better to say I feel it. And it's not the words, it's not the playing. Actually, I see it when the person is walking from the door to the piano, holding their instrument in their hand, and I see the body language. And what I can feel is actually the radiance. We are all talking so much about radiance when you are on stage, and radiance is not only artistry, it's what every human being has, because every human being has a heart, and the pumping of the heart creates a magnetic field, and that's our radiance. If you express this in scientific words, it's our magnetic field. And such a beautiful image, magnetic. Yeah. Do I attract love? Do I attract attention or wanting to get to know that person? So this is easy to be felt when we sit side by side, or we meet even by chance in the bus or in the train. We feel immediately, would I like to sit down between that person or the next person? When I stand beside this person, does it feel fine, or should I move away? And you don't even have to talk to that person. It's just, you feel it. And so I can feel if this person would be my future colleague, because I can feel when that person would sit just beside me, how would that feel? And mostly the sound they utter with their instrument, it's the same as their radiance. It's the same energy. And I'm not describing now a certain flute sound or a certain trumpet sound or violin sound. I'm describing the sound of the person. So it's the radiance and the frequency that makes the connection between the instrument and the player, because the same instrument would sound different played by a different person. So what I hear when the person is playing is their sound and not the sound of their instrument.
Yeah.
I'm very frequently asked if I need another instrument. I'm not strong enough with that instrument. Next time I will present you a new instrument. And I say, well, you can do that. I'm very sure that you will sound the same, or quite the same, maybe slightly different touch in the texture, maybe, but all in all, you will sound the same because it's your sound that I heard. And you will sound different when you change innerly. That's possible. And I watched that, observed that over years and decades when I'm in orchestra, and I observe that people change or develop or grow. And together, along with that growth, their sound is changing. Very particularly, you hear that with singers.
Yeah.
So because body and sound are connected so much. And maybe it's very interesting for you young people to listen to singers or to listen to recordings of singers through time, how that changes, and how obviously they are the same persons and they use the same words, but something has changed. And it's not only that they are older and maybe weaker or more experienced, but something was added to their their idea of music or their connection to music, or even they just matured.
Yeah.
And they maybe they lost masks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
That's
also know about these masks when people enter the stage?
Yeah, it's very interesting, because I wanted to ask about that. If we are the applicant to the orchestra, if we want to apply for an audition, if we can work around that radiance, if we can, like, for example, put out uh, a different intention for this whole audition process, does that change the radiance in the room, or are we just the person that we are and we always radiate the same? What would you say?
I would say it changes a lot what you choose to be your attitude to life when you enter stage. That's because we have choices. We have, of course, a kind of a design how we are. That's clear. But within the design, we are free to choose the energy that we want to emphasize or follow, or what we don't want to develop so much. And we, of course, we are free to choose enter the stage with a mask or not. So I would prefer no masks. The most simple mask is to put on a black wardrobe or black clothing. This is really a mask, because if everybody is doing that, it's very difficult to see through it, because they are so similar. For me, a mask could be my ambition. A mask could be my idea of scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
That I need the job. I need it to survive. That's already a mask, because you don't need it to survive. There are a million of possibilities how you can go on living when you go off the stage. And but our convictions and our thoughts change a lot in our attitude and in our connection to music. So for me, the most beautiful preparation and the most beautiful way to show who you are is way before you enter the stage. Listen to your heart. And listening to your heart does not mean listen to your emotions, but listening to silence. Because out of silence, music will come. And that's where your love should be. If there's not the love to music, you don't need to enter the stage. And if it's a layer of ambition or need or healing my wounds or whatever is thick around this initial energy of the love to music or love to life, which is quite the same, then it's very difficult for you to get a good member of a big group, because that's what the whole orchestra would agree on. We love music. And it's not we love doing music or playing music. We love music. That's enough. And all the rest, being better than others, being a leader, having a very nice CV now, because you can add a famous orchestra to your CV. That's actually not the point that makes you my new colleague, and that's not the point that makes our task. Our task is to help music to stay alive. That's our task. And I need to feel some of that task when you enter stage. And I agree that you could have all these layers of I'm nervous and all these things, and I want to be correct, and I don't want to be like insecure or whatever. Yes, but you will find all that if you just listen to your silent heart before.
So is that, do you mean before entering on stage, or just in the preparation process, going into like meditation, or how do you do that?
I think before entering the stage, it's too late because this should be your general motivation to go on in that profession, and it can stay even if you will not get an orchestra job. This is still there, and it will carry you through life if you get a job or not. You will then have maybe another job, but still the deep love of music, for music, and that's um, for me that's such a relief to have that approach and not this urgent need to survive. Mm, because this is really too much tension. It harms our art. It harms our um, the way how we interact. If it's so much of this ambition and of this scarcity beyond the way we communicate, then they're not open.
Yeah.
So I would say this attitude to listen to your heart, you can do that every day when you wake up or when you go to sleep. And in between, you can observe and listen to music as much as you can without agenda. Not in order to learn a piece or to make a research or whatever, or to get better, but without agenda.
Yeah, that's beautiful advice. Thank you. Well, there's so many topics we could tackle now, but actually, a topic that comes up very often when I'm working with students in coachings or in flute lessons is how to handle disappointments and rejection. And you openly shared with us that your first probationary period was not so successful for you personally. So there's this saying like rejection is protection. And in some cases, I experienced that it can actually be a blessing for both sides if a long-term collaboration doesn't happen because something fundamental, musically or personally, doesn't align. However, in most cases, rejection is very difficult to process and can deeply damage self-esteem in some students. Sometimes even to the point where people give up their musical careers altogether. And yeah, since I also know that you coach people in difficult life situations, what advice would you give to musicians struggling with rejection? How can they like rebuild themselves and regain confidence in their abilities?
Yes, I agree to you that rejection can be a protection. In most of the cases, it will be, but you will realize a bit later than just in the moment. And I admit, when I was rejected for my first professional job, it felt very hard for me. And it was very disappointing, not so much from the musical side, but from this experience that people were not friends when they make music, and that almost made me despair if I wanted to go on in that job. Okay, for the bad feelings. Number one, whatever failure you are going through, it is a kind of regarded as a kind of reality check. It's like you wanted to do something, your purpose was XYZ, and the result was a different one. So make an honest research. What were the reasons for you, and what were the reasons for the other side? And then understand if the bigger picture is that was just not my place, and there is a place for me, and there will be for everyone. And even if the check result will be, this is not my profession, this is really a good result. If it's not your profession, then be happy that it is shown to you early in life. Because I also observe persons who go through decades of an orchestral life and they got more and more and more damage to their soul, to their bodies, to their well-being, just because they are on the wrong place and they don't accept it. And they have the wrong profession, at least the level is not the right one. And they don't accept it, they don't agree to it, and they don't react. If this worst result, I give up that profession, comes up, it's good for you because that's the right result. If it is not your profession, then you will find your profession and this will make you happy. Yes. And you will really have a benefit from the wonderful experience to be able to play a musical instrument, to understand so much about music and like it so much. That's what I said before. The love for music never will leave your heart, never, no matter what profession you are doing. And it could have happened to you and me every day when we get injured or sick or whatever. We have to give up our beloved profession, and then we still carry the love in our hearts, and that will nourish us. And okay, that's for the worst case. And all the other cases, in my case, it turned out to be much better for me, much better. I have now a working place that I really like, and surrounding that I like, and it was even better for my children to get to a different place. So all in all, even if I could not see it then, it was so much better. And whatever I see in my coachings or in my whoever I speak to with these situations, if you broaden your horizon and think in periods and not in lines, it will be the best for you. Whatever life brings to you, it's the best. So that's kind of a fundamental trust that you need to have in life. If life shows you you are rejected because of you have to learn this better, or you have to understand how a social group works better, or whatever, then really identify the fears, and now you get the opportunity to work on that. And next time it will work out for you. And so it's just a lesson. And it's going in waves. So if you feel low, you are already on the way up again. Yeah, it's a turning point, these kind of reflections or these sudden events when you have the result of the election,
of the jury at the end of the probation.
The jury or the orchestra that, okay, I'm sorry, but you will not be the next colleague for us. It's just your chance to get to the next level of learning. And yes, please try to let go these convincements that success is always has something to do with gaining something. Success is very often about losing something, losing a wrong idea or losing the wrong approach or whatever. Losing is a very valuable step in your evolution.
Yeah. Yeah, and that said, I'm also interested into a topic that usually comes up in probationary periods. It's how close you get with the people around you, because I've seen that people really befriended a new colleague a lot and they got very close, but then they had to decide whether this colleague should stay in the orchestra or not. And then things get very complicated. And I also got the question recently by a student, how much should I become, you already mentioned that, become friends with the new colleagues in the orchestra mostly as an academist, or how much should I stay maybe a little bit more distance? Is there something, some guideline you have for young women and also men who enter a new orchestra?
Yeah. I think it depends on your observations. People are so different. The orchestra are very different. The size of the academies are very different. So it's difficult for me to say in general how should you behave. So if some person comes up or shows up that you feel really connected to, or will be your good friend for years or whatever, it will be fine as long as it is not a strategy. That it should never be a strategy to make friends with your colleagues in order to get a good result in the end. And it's okay as long as you don't depend on that. If you are a good friend to whoever, you will agree to his or her honesty. And being friends is a different thing to being colleagues, because it's a working level that should really go fine. It has also something to do with your skills on your instrument, like intonation or something. This just has to work. Even if you're friends and it doesn't work, then we should be honest and in love enough to understand that if you are not honest, this is not friendship. So for our young persons, understand that friendship is not always positivity, so-called positivity, but it has something to do with a loving honesty. And yeah, I think that's the principle how everything should work. If you are a young woman, be careful that your heartfelt approach to whoever male colleagues could be misleading, and develop a feeling for that. Again, I don't want to give you another mask, but I want you to observe, to feel into the reactions of your colleagues and your partners in music, and make yourself your teacher in how far can I go, and when is it going too close, or even so close that your partner assumes that you want more than friendship. So it's up to you and your sensitivity.
Yeah, those are all unexpected questions before you enter an orchestra. So in general, whether you're a new academist or coming new into an orchestra, how would you suggest to best prepare for such an entry? What should, apart from what we already discussed, should they pay particular attention to? Or are there some things you maybe can never prepare for? I don't know. What do you think?
I think something very easy is to visit the website of the orchestra and scroll to the faces, maybe read the whatever is written to every person, how long they are there, and whatever you can learn about them. And of course, listen to recordings or videos of your orchestra, and maybe not only concert recordings, maybe they have some projects like educational projects where you can look a little bit in the heart of the orchestra. What are their intentions and what are they doing every day? And during watching the videos, you can see the interactions of the colleagues. That's very interesting. Maybe you can put off the sound and only see how do they look, how do they hold their instruments. Is it a lot of tension there? To have their side, is it wandering to the conductor and back, or how do they behave? and especially the section that you are going to join. That's very, very interesting. And listening without the sound, it's so much fun. So that's one possibility. And another possibility, if you have the time and the financial means, make a course in communication. And the first point that you have to learn when you communicate is listening. And really getting what the other person said in multiple layers, not only the words and the syntax or the grammar, maybe also the tone, the intonation. Maybe your future colleagues will have a different nationality than you have. Then you could also read something about their original nation. For example, when I entered, I had only colleagues with an Eastern German background. And later in life, I had 3 colleagues coming from Hungary. And that was really a big shift, exactly for me, because I'm from the Western Germany and I grew up in the 70s. So I think that was really the most free and liberal period to grow up. And my ideas of life were so liberal and so open. And I really had to learn that if you grow up in different conditions, then your approach to life will be not so liberal. And that's okay, yeah, but I need to know it. Yeah. So that could be a nice approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. And now we still have the questions from our Penthesilea community. But as I'm walking through them, I actually realized that we touched on so many of them. Maybe one that is still a bit open is, how do you stay connected to your love for music when work becomes routine or overwhelming?
Yeah. My love for music. Definitely it doesn't come from practicing.
Yeah. So what do you do?
Yes, I think my best source to rediscover my love for music, in case it was just buried by whatever, is going in a retreat. Like in my case, it's our little cabin in Sweden. We have a little cabin there in the woods, and what I really appreciate is I'm going into absolute silence. There's silence, and sometimes I need not to listen to music, not to listen to anything, but just being there, leaving my problems or my bad temper in a package at the enter of the street that leads to the house. So I don't take the problems into the house. I leave them outside, and I will go back to them after I had my little bath in silence. And after a time, when there was silence all over, a need grows up to a longing to the sound of music. And then I turn on the radio, and it's something like, I don't know, let's call it Tannhäuser or a Mendelssohn Symphony or whatever, some cheerful, full, rich orchestra sound music, then it's back.
Yeah. So it's always the orchestra that brings you back. It's not so much the solo literature. Where's your heart more? Could you say that?
For me, it's the orchestra.
Yeah.
Because for me, it was always the core of in my idea of music, to be part of a bigger ensemble group, horizon. That's really my pleasure. And what brings me back is silence. Yeah. So that I can feel again that I really have this longing for music. And if I'm so fed up with all these rehearsals and all this orchestra life around the music. There's a lot of things that you have to do which are not music when you're part of an orchestra, and sometimes this actually is overwhelming. And then when I can step back from that for a while, even a weekend would be enough, then I join the part again with my full heart.
Yeah, beautiful. And then let's get to the last question from the community. How can someone balance fitting in with an orchestra while still staying true to their musical identity? So this belonging and autonomy thing is in there.
Yes. Well, do you really have to lose your identity when you're part of something? I don't think so.
Good question. Question back to the community.
I think that's a common convincement, that especially for people who are in a 2T position, or I can feel that sometimes that it could occur when I play something like a Bruckner symphony, when I have to play just unisono with the principal flute all the time, and I have to blend, and I cannot put in my own ideas. But number one, blending in the sound of somebody else is part of our job, and it should be a joy. It should be something like a role, a character. If you would be a Schauspieler?
Actor,
of course. If you are an actor, you have to slip into whatever character, and they don't talk about losing themselves. I never heard an actor talking about losing themselves in a character. They take joy in really understanding the energy of the character and act like this. And partially, we should have joy to just slip into this music, because it's never our own music in classical life. It's the music by composers, and they put all their heart blood in it, and it's so enriching to really step into that. And I find myself there because I'm a part of this, and the music is also a part of myself. And when I need a more soloistic sound again, which I cannot use, of course, when I have to blend unisono with somebody else, then I go back to playing at home whatever I like, and I try to connect it then only with me and my instrument, and develop our common sound with whatever makes fun to play, a sonata or even an etude or just one note. and that's me and my instrument, and then I can do my contribution to whatever task I will find on my note stand.
Yeah. So it's not one or the other. Yeah.
No,
Beautiful.
I don't think so.
Gudrun, we're already at the end of our conversation. Time went so quickly. Thank you so much for taking the time. And for all of our listeners, if you want to have more of Gudrun, we have online workshops and live sessions on our school community. We would love to see you there. And Gudrun, I see you soon.
Yes, thank you so much. And for all our young listeners, I'm so glad that you have the opportunity to share this great initiative of Karin, and spreading so much blessings and advice and thoughts of many authorities here in Penthesilea and in the podcast. So it's really wonderful to be a part of this too.
Thank you, Gudrun. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.